This is Tulsa criminal defense attorney Stephen Cale. It is President's Day today, which is perfect for a segue or lead in to what I'm going to talk to you about today, and that is 5 reasons why you need an attorney if you've been charged with a crime. So now you might be asking, well, what does President's Day have to do with why I need an attorney if I'm charged with a crime? Well, let's first talk about President Abraham Lincoln. Honest Abe. Here's a quote that Abraham Lincoln gave to us. He was an attorney, and he said, "He who represents himself has a fool for a client." And so what Abraham Lincoln is saying is you're an idiot if you represent yourself. Abraham Lincoln was from Illinois. If he was from Boston, he might have said something like, "Hey, Chowderhead, get yourself an attorney." In other words, you don't want to do it by yourself. Now, you can represent yourself. You have a constitutional right to do that if you're charged with a crime. That right is found in the 6th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, but it's not really advisable. Listen to what the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals says about somebody who wants to represent themselves. The Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals said that even when a defendant exhibits an unrealistic or foolish view of his case and possible defenses, he may still be granted the right to choose self-representation. So the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals is affirming that somebody has a right to represent themselves, but they may have an unrealistic or foolish view of his or her case, an unrealistic view or of defenses in the case. So really not smart. So let's go into the reasons why you should not represent yourself, why you should hire an attorney if you've been charged with a crime. I'm going to start out with another quote. This is from the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court talks about that the right to waive counsel, the right to have an attorney can be waived, but it has to be done so in a way that's voluntary. In other words, you can't be coerced into doing it. Not only does it have to be voluntary, but it has to be knowing and intelligently done. You have to know what you're doing, and it has to be intelligent. It doesn't necessarily have to be smart, but it has to be intelligent. But here's what the U.S. Supreme Court said. Here's a quote from them. "A waiver of the right to counsel is voluntary, knowing, and intelligent when a defendant is informed of the dangers, disadvantages, and pitfalls of self-representation." So, reason number 1 why you should hire an attorney if you've been charged with a crime. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court just told you there are dangers, disadvantages, and pitfalls of self-representation. So in other words, you just really don't want to do it. Reason number 2, if you've posted bond or bail, you've been arrested, got out of jail by posting bond, 99% of the time, a judge will require you to hire an attorney if you've posted bond. And many times, almost 99% of the time, you cannot get court-appointed counsel if you've bonded out, because the court presumes that if you had enough money to pay for a bond to get out of jail, then you have enough money to hire an attorney. So you don't want to represent yourself because it'll be dangerous. There's disadvantages to doing it. Secondly, a judge is probably going to require you to do it anyway. And if you don't do that, if you come up to court time after time having not hired an attorney, judge can revoke your bond, put you back in jail as a kind of like a citation for contempt for not following the judge's order. Okay? So, thirdly, attorneys have specialized knowledge. Attorneys have gone to law school for at least 3 years, sometimes longer. Sometimes attorneys will have gone to law school for 4 years. You have to pass the bar exam. It's a very rigorous 2-day exam. And every year, attorneys have to have at least 12 hours of what's called CLE, or continuing legal education. So you have at least 3 years of law school, passing the bar exam, and every year you have to have 12 hours of continuing legal education. That all goes into or encompasses specialized knowledge about the law, something that most people don't know. Now, I'm not saying that if you're not an attorney, you don't have some knowledge of the law and you couldn't represent yourself. It's just not smart to, because attorneys really have that concentration and focus on the law, and they have to update themselves or re-educate themselves at least annually. Fourth, actually before I go to number 4, let me just kind of illustrate that special knowledge for you. Now, one time I had an issue with my car. I would put it on cruise control, and then sometimes it would sputter and go off cruise control, and I couldn't put it back on cruise control. And so I was researching what the issue might be. I was putting in the symptoms, and I figured out through my online research and talked to some friends that the problem was a sensor in the car. And so I talked to this friend, and he said, yeah, just go buy the sensors and I'll help you replace them. And so I was actually going to do that, but I'm glad I didn't. I ended up taking it to a mechanic, and guess what? With their specialized knowledge, they diagnosed the issue and found out it was not the sensors, okay? It was not the sensors in the car. So thankfully, I opted to go to somebody, pay them a little bit of money, somebody that had specialized knowledge to figure out what the problem was. Now, in a similar vein is specialized skill. Attorneys have specialized skills that people who are not attorneys don't have. And when I talk about that, I don't mean that in a demeaning sense. I'm just saying, for example, skills in procedure, how to get evidence suppressed or thrown out, how to proceed throughout the case, how to make objections, how to prepare exhibits, how to do a jury trial. I've been practicing for almost 20 years. I have quite a bit of jury trial experience. It takes skill, and actually skill improves over the years. How to negotiate a deal, if it, just the best possible deal that you can get if you don't want to take an issue to jury trial or a bench trial. And let me go back to my car repair illustration. I know very little about a car. I know where to put the key, where to put the gas, and where to put the oil, and that's about it. I know how to turn the key and start it too. But going back to that car problem issue, I watched YouTube videos on how to replace these sensors because I thought that's what the issue was. Thank goodness that I didn't decide to do that and buy some sensors, look on YouTube to how to replace them, and because guess what? I wouldn't have solved the problem. That was not what the problem was. It was something totally different, and I actually could have done more harm than good because I didn't have that specialized skill on how to do car repair for the issue that I had. So there's dangers and pitfalls to representing yourself. A judge may require you to hire an attorney. Attorneys have specialized knowledge, and fourthly, they have specialized skill. Now, going to the last one, number 5, there probably are more than 5 reasons why you should hire an attorney if you've been charged with a crime, but I've just listed 5. And this is something that most people don't really think about, and that is that if you're representing yourself, you're going to be really emotionally involved in your case. Now, sometimes that could be good, but really it's bad because you have an emotional tie to it, and it's almost like you have blinders on. You can't analyze the situation objectively. You're doing it subjectively. You've got an emotional attachment to this case if you've been charged, and what you think ought to be the reason why you shouldn't have this punishment or this charge, or why it should be dismissed, maybe an emotional reason but not a legal reason. And so attorneys will have, I'm going to call it an emotional detachment from your case. That doesn't mean that they don't care about your case. It just means that they're looking at it objectively, with focused only on the law and the facts, and they're able to analyze it that way. And really, this kind of relieves some of the stress from you if you've been charged with a crime. Let somebody else help shoulder the burden. Let your attorney help carry the water, carry that weight of what's going on in your life. You've got, other things going on, probably job, family, whatever else you've got going on, and you really need somebody else to help carry that load, that weightiness of this charge being levied against you. So again, there are really a lot of pitfalls and dangers to representing yourself. Don't do it. If you've been charged with a crime, give me a call. I'm Tulsa criminal defense attorney Stephen Cale. Give me a call at the Cale Law Office at 918-277-4800. That's 918-277-4800. Your initial consultation is free. I hope this information was helpful for you. Take a look at some of the notes below, show notes if you will, and give me a call.